Hi, this is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we sample around the world the amazing humans that exist in the land of human design, gene keys, astrology, all sorts of things really. In this series, we are showcasing guests in the human design community and bringing recognition to them in the work that they do in the human design space, and also get to know them a little bit better in how they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful featured guest is Tresa Rivera, aka Human Design Hypnotherapy on the gram. Tresa is a 6'2" Splenic Manifestor and the owner of Trance Change Hypnotherapy. As well as being a hypnotherapist, she's also a certified health and life coach, human design mentor, and most importantly, creator of these funny as reels that we love to watch. So thank you and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, for being open to sample my energy.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's intense.
I'm just really excited to sort of showcase this, and especially you and just watching you, obviously, from all the way over here in Australia, and just the stuff. I laugh so much, and I just really need to say thank you for just making stuff realistic and just share, making it realistic and making it fun.
Yeah. If if it's not fun and if it's not funny, what's the point? And it's so fun for me as I work with clients and as I go through this experiment myself. It's like, oh my gosh, we all go through this. And to help people learn about it in real life, that's just everything to me. So I'm so happy to hear that people like it. And yeah.
So let's talk about you. This is something on this podcast because obviously it's reflector to reflector normally, but we're inviting in everybody else. But how about you? How did you discover human design, or human design discover you?
It did discover me. My sister came home from a retreat one day and said, I found this thing called human design. You have to check it out. So I went up, I found out I was a manifestor, of course. The first time you look at one of those body graphs, it's like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. And so I asked my sister, well, how do I know what it says? She said, there's this guy at the retreat. He'll read your chart for him, gave me his number. And so me, manifestor, I just text him right away, split in the moment. I'm just going to take action right away. And we hopped on a phone call 2 hours later, and I had my chart read for the first time. And I didn't know what this man was saying because he was speaking human design and I speak English. But it hit me at such a deep, he's a traditional analyst.
Yeah.
And that language doesn't always cross over, but it hit me at my soul, and my line 2 received a calling that I can't explain with words. I felt seen on a level that nobody had ever seen me. And I'm thinking, who is this man? He's across the country. I have no idea. How does he know me more than my friends and my family know me? So the next week I called him back again. And I said, I want you to read my husband's chart so that I can understand how to work. And then the next week I called him back again. I want you to read my kid's chart. Then the next week I called him back again for a more in-depth. So I had about, I think 4 different chart readings before I said, I need to go to human design school. And my teacher said, Tresa, you are a single definition Splenic Manifestor. You're going to be bored to tears at human design school. Let me homeschool you, basically. So he opened up his library, of which they teach in International Human Design School. So I've had the privilege of listening to hundreds of hours of raw Uruhu lectures, looking at over 700, analyzing different charts, and more than anything, gaining a mentorship with a very experienced, trained analyst. And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. The gift that keeps on giving. That's what I call it. And I love that you say that. It just changed your life. That's how it felt for me too. It's just like how you can't unsee, you can't unknow. And it's just going forward, isn't it? Right. I love that you were saying that in the now moment. I always say if I was going to be a certain type, I'd be a 1-3, and I'd also be splenic. I don't know why, but I love it. I know that you probably have faced this problem time and time again, but
Yeah. Well, I think that so before I found human design, I was a certified hypnotherapist. I had just started my business. And so stepping into human design with the amount of healing that I'd gone through at a subconscious level and the awareness that really catapulted, I said, I'm going to start my experiment today. Today. Some people get their charts read and then they forget about it and then they come back years later. And so there, and you know, you're in your experiment, man, there's layers to all of this. And we're going to keep coming across all of these layers. It doesn't matter how long you've been in your experiment. We're conditioned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So besides that feeling of being seen and heard, you were also just saying there, you took action straight away and you're like, I'm in this experiment. What did you do, Tresa? What did you do in that now moment?
Yeah. Well, I cried. First and foremost, he said, you have a closed and repelling aura. And I cried over that for a week. And then I started to feel really happy because at least I understood why people had reacted to me the way that they reacted their entire life. But really the first thing that I did, I got off the phone and I took the not self questions of my open centers and I wrote them down on a piece of paper and I put them in my pocket. And I kept that piece of paper in my pocket I kept having to get new pieces of paper, obviously. And every single day when I felt discord and resistance in my body as a manifestor, when I felt anger come up, I'd read those not self questions. Am I thinking about things that don't matter? Do I know when enough is enough? Right. And I started to inform. I started to tell people too much information. Can you manifest or tell somebody too much information? But I really started to just be, and that I think for me was one of the hardest things to step into, was because manifestors have been in trouble their whole lives. Yeah, we get in trouble more than any other types. Manifestors' children are are in trouble more than any other kids, both mentally, physically, emotionally. We're in trouble with our peers. We're in trouble by our teachers. We go to touch something and we get in trouble. And so informing is really scary at first.
Yeah.
And then I started to really get in connection with that idea of intuition. Now, the spleen is really interesting. And as a hypnotherapist, I see this with every splenic authority, because the spleen is deeply connected with fear and mistrust. There's a lot of, I don't trust myself. I don't trust life. I don't trust this person. So how can you follow your intuition when you don't trust it?
Yeah.
Fascinating to me.
We talk about this a lot as reflectors. Definitely what you said there about mistrust, because all the people that I've spoken to, myself included, it's like we know what's going on with somebody, and at a very early age, they're lying because people are not true to who they are. So we learn mistrust at a very early age, and we learn then not to trust our feelings and our depth and our intuition. And I'm assuming that a lot of people in general are like this, but it's like, wow, this is a huge thing that we've got to then learn to trust people again, because they say one thing, do another, but feel completely different. And I'm assuming even with splenic authority, you just know things.
Yeah. And a lot of those things, and it's so beautiful to hear you say this, because for reflectors, you're all of service to the other. You're reflecting us. And the spleen it's this kind of like internal, what am I doing right now? What's my lymphatic system, doing right now? And on top of that, can I just tell you how weird it is to be a manifestor and realize, like, I'm deeply sensitive to spirit. Yeah. I am, and I'm a left angle cross of spirit. So I'm deeply sensitive to non-physical energy. But when it comes to the energy of another person, I always thought I was a great judge of character. I thought I could read other people. Turns out I got a big old shield up in front of my face. And I really cannot read the energy of another the way that you can, or the way that a projector can, or even the way that a generator can. And while you're doing it in your own different way, I'm just over here like, which is a beautiful sometimes, because I got a big old shield. I don't have to feel their energy if I don't want to. But then other times I'm kind of in that blind spot of the other and how they're,
I can only imagine how that must feel to be told, you have a repelling and closed aura. Because, when I sit with people, I don't like to, especially if they're manifest. I love manifestors, by the way. I just come to me. I was looking a couple of years ago for a manifestor bestie, and be careful what you wish for, because they are all around me now. It's just like I have my own Queen's Guard, I call them. But anyway, going back, it's like the language is closed and repelling. It's like, ouch. Instead of, you
Ooh.
have things to do and everybody getting in your way distracts you. So we've prevented that from happening, like language people.
Yeah. Well, and when I started to understand mechanics, and I started to study the electromagnetic field that extends without and the properties within that field, I understand why he says repelling. I get it, because it truly is, pushing outwards as opposed to anybody else's aura. But yeah, you're right. When you're new to human design and you don't understand these things, and somebody says you repel other people, it's kind of like, oh, that's why everybody hates me and there's nothing I can do about it. Great. I feel much better about myself. Thanks. It's but I love it when people use the word protective.
Yeah, I
It's
like that
protect.
word.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a shield. And I've noticed as a manifester that my shields go up, but they also come down. I'm not as repelling and protective in certain times. I have the ability to put my shields down and let people into that.
Yeah. So when you found this, obviously, you were saying there before, you went and had your chart read, you went and had your husband's chart read and your kids' chart read. Did you also go back and look at the family dynamic, like the penta in your environment? Would you mind
Yeah.
sharing with us how little Tresa grew up and what life what life was like for Tresa?
Oh, Annie, this is so you now can I please share that question was a direct reflection of me? And because I do inner childhood work with my clients all the time. And yesterday I was just thinking about little Tresa. And so that question in and of itself was deeply reflective, which is something that I love about reflectors. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a reflection. Did you know that? Did you feel that? So yeah, I did. I got the little app. I put my whole family in. I wanted to know how I was messed up, why I
Yeah.
was messed up. So my mom and my dad, and I was raised really religious. My parents are Mormon. I left the LDS church when I was 20. So I think that had some to do with it. But my dad's a manifesting generator, open ego. My mom is an emotional manifester, very defined ego.
Wow.
Yeah. And so watching the dynamics between my mom and my dad, and I would always get that, like, you're so much like your mother, which is something that I didn't want because he was using it in a negative thing,
Yeah.
right? My two sisters are both generators, one manifesting, one pure. So I was always and then my oldest sister is a projector, but she didn't live with us growing up. So I was always the black sheep. I was obviously very clearly different than anybody else. And I have the channel of initiation.
Yeah.
And so I did the most splenic manifestor channel of initiation 51 gate 51 thing you could possibly do. And I left the religion that I was raised in, and I went off to do my own individual, but kind of bringing it back to little Tresa. My dad is an entrepreneur. He owns a welding shop. He's very, successful. He's a hard worker. He's a manifesting generator. He's a sleeping phoenix. And I still see that within myself, this idea of what does it mean to work? What does it mean to be successful? Overdoing it because I'm not a generator.
Yeah.
And I still find myself today, yesterday, last week, running my energy system the way that my dad taught me, not through his words, but through his example on how to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that takes a lot. As you were saying earlier, it's just like it just keeps going. You don't just get to 7 years and you're deconditioned and it's all beautiful and the Garden of Eden. It really is just constant, isn't it?
Yeah,
Do you find looking at your mother now, knowing that she's a manifestor, did she give you a lot of freedom, or was she more controlling? I often wonder about this manifestor to manifestor, mother
Yeah.
to child.
I look back at my mom and all of her wounds make sense now.
Mm,
I have
yeah.
so much love and adoration for what my mother had to go through, and she didn't know that she's a manifestor. Well, she's got the whole channel of money, which is really like the policing channel, so the 2145. And in her personality sun, she has the gate of depth, gate 48, which is the gate of solutions, but the opposite of solutions is problems. So the not self version of my mother is always focused on the problem. The
Yeah.
problem could go wrong, fear, worry, what could go wrong. So she
I
did
love
not.
gate 48.
I
I've got gate 48.
love
You've got gate 48. I always
40.
call it this. I
Oh,
cannot put the books down. I'm never enough. That's then my never enoughness. I always look to gate 48. Sorry to interject there. I'm just like, I love gate 48.
I adore it. I adore it when it's the true self too,
Mm,
but then I see it expressing as her. And so, no, and especially being raised very religious, I
yeah.
absolutely did not get the freedom that I needed as a manifestor. And I was in trouble a lot,
Yeah.
right? Because I was the black sheep, and I could see it in my sisters. It would be like, well, I did this thing that was very, very small, and I'm getting punished more than my sister who did this thing that was huge. Why is that?
Yeah.
But as an adult, I have this relationship with my mother that nobody else has, because I
Mm,
understand her. And more than that, I think that what other people don't understand is that as a manifestor, when I walk into the room, I can sense that other people are turned off. I can sense me repelling them. But when you're with another manifestor, you don't repel each other. It's
mm,
home. And being in this environment where, think about a manifestor baby. You're born, and the moment you come out of your mom, you repel them with your aura. And just knowing that that never happened with my mom.
yeah.
Have a really beautiful, and I help her understand what it means to a manifestor. And it's really changed the way that she's communicating with my dad and with other people in her life. And
I was gonna ask if you'd indoctrinated more people into the cult. As I,
I'm
joke.
trying.
It's just like,
Right.
come and join my cult. I tell you exactly.
Yeah, well, when you see the results, it's really hard to ignore it.
Yeah.
No. And so for a lot of manifestors, what'll happen is we are conditioning everybody.
Mm,
My go-to, it's like I see something that needs to get done, I do it. So if a friend comes to me with a problem, my response is, well, you should just get up and go do this or this or this, or you should just get up. It's such a manifestor. And manifestors don't realize they're doing it.
yeah.
And so I've really been learning to ask permission.
Mm,
Really, hey, would you like to hear the advice that I have? Or I have some insights for you if you're open to it. Or do you want to know what I would do, which might not be the same for you?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard. And I can only imagine, and I've often spoken about this as well, like as we navigate more and more of the world, being aware of these systems that help us understand each other. The children that we're raising, I know your children, I know my children, they're raised through this lens of acceptance, and we're all different, but we've still got to navigate that as very conditioned parents, don't we? So that's it's easier, I guess, to teach a manifestor child how to do this because it's polite. Much harder for an adult finding this and just going, oh crap, now you're telling me I've got to actually, it's like, fuck,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
getting in
Yeah.
my flow.
They don't want to ask permission. Sometimes when I will tell a manifestor client, they go, well, I'm here to do what I want. I should just inform. And it's like, okay, well, if you really want to get what you want, you got to be polite. You got to be kind. You got to be nice. Because the truth is that when people want to help manifestors, that's the truth of it. Manifestors hold that king, queen archetypal energy. And while sometimes it's like off with your head, right? The other time, you'd be amazed at how people with kindness and love on my end have bent over backwards to help me achieve something,
Yeah.
or, right? And it's very simple. Be kind, ask permission, do things with love, follow your authority. And
Yeah.
I've watched the world, my personal world of people, open up into just pure love, Annie.
Yeah.
There's no way of saying it.
Yeah. I've watched it as well, and it's just like you get that kickback of going, well, why do I have to inform? But it's like, just try it on. Just try it on and see how much more room you get to move in the world. And what you were just saying there, more people will bend over backwards for you, because I know I do. I don't feel, and it's a general consensus, not everyone's like this. I never feel initiated. Well, that's not the right word, but I never feel repelled by a manifestor. It's like I can just go mushy right up, and they don't even really know I'm there. And trust me, I've been experimenting with this. As you say, I've got a lot of manifestors around me, all people, because people are people. But I love it. And I love it that it's just so easy, because we get each other. And I think it's because we're both, the manifestor and the reflector are both kind of like the black sheep. We're always misunderstood in different ways. And we kind of come together as a little bit of a, you too? Yeah, me too. You know?
Right.
We're a little of the outcasts. And we kind of just don't rub each other up the wrong way. I don't know. How do you
Oh,
feel about that?
I totally agree. And just looking at it from an auric perspective, our auras are the most similar to each other's, right? Where a generator and a projector's auras are both open. They're just, there's no protection. They're taking it all in. You know, we have these denser, more saturated auras where they're so deeply protective. And I've heard Ra explain it like think about a sponge that is dry and porous and open. That's what a generator, that's what their aura is like. While a manifestor's, it's like the sponge is saturated and wet. It's very dense. While a reflector's aura is just like Teflon. It's just like it's even more saturated and even more dense.
Yeah.
And so it's deeply protected. And so in a very real sense, people feel that from you as well. While you're sampling them, the outer layers of your energy field is caressing the outer layers of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not saturating you. Well, you're not designed for it to be saturated
Yeah.
in the same as the generator or projector. And so I feel like there is a deep commonality just from that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Massaging. It's exactly what we do.
It's a little rubbing
Just
against.
lobbing in and going, ooh, this is nice. Your family dynamic, how does that, it's such a fascinating thing, because I work with families, I work with women, and I love this stuff in there. Let's talk about your family. Like you were saying, you've got a projector, you've also got a manifesting generator, I believe, and a generator.
Dude, oh, you're
Oh, well, I watch your stuff all the time. We know you. It's like we kind of all know you, but you don't know us.
oh,
Anyway, tell us about your family dynamic now and how that works for you.
yeah. Thank you for asking. So my husband is a splenic projector. We are both splenic, which is very helpful. We're in the now. We don't plan things like emotional beings do. We have a day off together. What do we want to do right now? You know, we're driving down the road. Ooh, that place looks good. Let's turn in there. And so that's really, really helpful. Human design changed 80% of my marital. We've been together for 15 years. And understanding how to communicate with him, I never in my entire life would ever think that he would be interested in human design or so. Because a lot of times women, and you see this all the time, women are the ones that are more spiritual and they're always trying to get their husbands on board. I didn't even go that route. I literally was like, I'm just going to learn his design and I'm going to start to understand him. And he one day was like, why are you the best wife ever lately? Like, what is happening? I don't understand this. And so then I started to indoctrinate him, stepping into that space. And then he had a phone call with my teacher, Danny. And Danny really helped him understand me and there are relationship dynamics. And so right now, when we have those conflicts, we look at our we talk about it. This is my manifestor perspective, and this is why I'm acting the way that I'm acting, and this is your projector, right? Now, my oldest daughter, she lives with her dad, which is really hard for me. She moved out about a year ago. I miss her very much. So she's not in our household, but I started to honor her and her design as well. So she's almost 16, and most of her life, I was a typical manifestor mom. Go to bed, go to school, do this, do that, right?
Yep.
And now I've become this safe adult in her life that says, well, do you want to go to that thing? Do you want, how does your body feel about it? And she's emotional.
Yeah.
And so then I say, Cass, honey, don't make a decision right now. I'll ask you the same questions tomorrow. Let me ask you again tomorrow. And I'll just keep doing that. And some days she's annoyed with it and some days she's not. But I can tell a huge difference between her wanting to come to me and talk to me and be open. And any parent out there knows how important that is for a teenager, right? Yeah. And now my 5-year-old son, he's an emotional projector. And we've pulled him out of school because it was too overwhelming for him. So sitting down with my child every day, teaching him one-on-one. And every morning we're getting into the habit of journaling his emotions. We journal his emotions. When his emotional wave gets triggered, I let him scream for a quick second. And then I sit him down. I say, Riker, what are you feeling? Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you hurt? Are you frustrated? And I have him verbally articulate and put a label, because as a hypnotherapist, what I see is so many people with emotional waves that were never taught that it's allowed for them to feel, because as an undefined emotional system, right? People like me and you, I don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's overwhelming. It's constantly, you're in a constant state of overwhelm. Yeah.
And so most parents, they teach their children to suppress their emotions, to shove it down, to pretend, to hide, to not feel it.
Yep.
So I'm very set on, and right now he's the only emotionally defined person in our house. So I'm really like, let's talk about your feelings. Let's label them, right? Like I'm that mom, totally. And then we have a almost 4-year-old pure generator, and he is actually on the autism spectrum. And so we're getting him a diagnosis right now. He's pretty high functioning, but he's clearly neurodivergent. And it's been fascinating. I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole all day with, the shift in 2027 and the octic circuit and all of that, which I've been studying. But essentially, being able to use as for a pure generator, because he doesn't use his words like a typical almost girl, right?
Yes, of course.
And so recognizing that as a sacral being, those sounds are going to give me so much more than his words would anyway.
Yeah.
And so, it's so helpful.
It is. I feel you on this. Like all the years that I've been doing this, when I first, found this, and, my partner's still not into it like I am, but he leverages on the benefits that he gets from understanding this. And he goes, yeah, there's something to this, because I've got an emotional manifesting generator 4/6. So he's very like, whoa, whoa. And I really feel that, and having to really learn him more than my splenic projector daughter, it's easier. He's a little bit like, oh, holy crap. Righto, we're going for it, and it's like a little bit of a hit every now and then. But it has just helped me parent. And this is what I love about it so much. It's just like I say to people, regardless of if you totally want to get on board the bus, just knowing these small things can help your relationship, as you said, can help you parent. It's just like, oh my God. But it also teaches them to respect you as an individual. Obviously, manifestors and reflectors, we're not as rare as the other types. So it's just like, you have to understand these people are going to be in the world, different people, neurodivergency. I want to have that conversation, because I feel you on that. There's a reason that we're getting more of these coming into this space.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but it's just like, I'm sure if I walked in and asked for a diagnosis, it would sort of like be like, there you go. It's just the way it is. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot. I mean, the genetic mutation were and there are so many people that maybe aren't technically on the spectrum that have autism symptoms, or they have just different signs that, right, it's kind of something that's in the world, and we're going to see it a lot more in the world after 2027. I'm not, as a parent, I'm not afraid to treat my children different. I think that that's one of the big things when it comes to parenting. Well, that's not fair. Well, that's what you can't. My projector son, he goes to bed and he says, "Mom, I'm not tired." And I say, "Oh, honey, you're not supposed to be tired when you lay down.
Yeah.
You're supposed to lay down for 30 or 40 minutes before you get tired. So let's put on some nice soft music and you can just lay there and, get tired." My generator son, you're not supposed to go to bed until you're tired.
Yeah.
So we let him get all of his sacral energy out. And my 5-year-old will sometimes say, "Well, Mom, that's not fair." And I say, "Well, honey, you're a projector and Rookie's a generator. And what's not fair is to teach you that you have the same body as him, because you don't. You're not going to have the same amount of energy, right?" And so I use these words with my children. I say, "You're a projector and you need to do this, and he's a generator and I'm a manifester." I want it to be normal language in my household so that they respect the difference within people.
I've also found with my kids that they naturally, like when you give them, we've just been away for the past weekend, and my projector daughter, who's 7.5, she naturally now, I observe her, she'll naturally just withdraw. And I watch her out there, closed door on the balcony, doing her own thing. And it's just like someone will go, and I just leave her alone. She's in her own space. Just leave her alone.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing of, just those small things, isn't it? Just understanding she needs time. She's been around too much generator energy. She doesn't have that buffer yet that I have to be able to just go.
Yeah. Enough. And I'm curious if you've noticed this in your projector daughter, because what I see with my projector son, when we get into a group of kids on the playground or something, he naturally does not want to chase after the kids and make friends. He's naturally a little bit shy. He naturally wants to sit back and kind of, and I encourage that, but a lot of parents would push their kids out of the nest and be like, "Go ask them to play." I mean, you see that in your daughter as well?
Yeah, she's a 2/4. So I find that she's quite introverted in a way, but then every now and then when she feels comfortable and the environment is good, you watch that fourth line come out. She's like, woohoo, it's go time. And it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's just like she's feeling good. And I teach her that. That's one of the things I'm just like, that spleen of yours knows when it feels good. And I use that. I've said this to so many people. I actually, sounds awful, doesn't it? I use my daughter as my personal awareness center. And we've had that happen where I said to her, "Honey, if we ever go somewhere and you just need out and I'm not aware, I need you to say to me." And she's gone, "I don't like this park." Righto, we're out of here. And I trust her. She's only 7.5, but I trust her because I just go, that's something that I'm still deconditioning from that. I'm very aware of other things, but sometimes if it's unsafe because of that fear center, that's a survival center. It's just like when she says to me, "I don't like this," boom, we're gone. So
That's so empowering, especially as a projector, because at an unconscious level, what that says to her is, "I see things that you don't see, and I'm validated in that."
yeah,
Oh, that's so beautiful. It's
yeah,
and doing a lot of childhood trauma work, I always see the deeper aspects of, like you said, these little moments within our kids that we're shaping them and their conditioning as adults. Like, no pressure or anything.
yeah,
It's us.
yeah. Before you found human design, like, speaking of the generator world, you were saying there before, like you still struggle sometimes. Struggle's probably a little bit harsh, but you still are aware that you need to generate. Generator's going to generate, and we're in this world of constantly feeling it. Do you feel in your business, even in your online space, that that's pressure for you to constantly generate?
I do. And some days I'm aware of it and some days I struggle with it. To be
Mm.
completely transparent with you, I was actually talking with my friend Ta, who's a parenting coach. She's a human design parenting coach. I was just having this conversation with her. And for me, I have a very defined ego. So I have 21, 51, 26. I've got all of the willpower in the entire world. I will it into place. And so I can definitely get into that space of just one more message I'm going to answer, just one more post for today. I can work with one more client. And, what I say over and over and over is that our minds treat our bodies like slaves. And I see that in my own conditioning process. My mind is literally over here with the bullwhip saying, work harder, do more, be more. And my poor body is sitting over here saying, can I rest, please?
Yeah.
Can I just lay down today? No, we've got to do more work. And it's fascinating for me to witness, especially from a practitioner standpoint, because before I found human design, it was all about the unconscious emotional wounds driving our behavior. And once those wounds are healed, there's no more emotions. We've disconnected all of the emotions around the events, but I can emotionlessly will my body to do more work than it wants to. And that's all pure cellular conditioning from being raised by a generator and having all those generators around in my household growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. And again, it just amplifies what we're saying here. It's just a constant process. But the good thing is we're aware of it and we can catch it now. I don't know about you, but it's just learning this is also, we can catch it now. We can know that when we're frustrated or when we're bitter or when we're something or one of those centers is having that, what you said about, that's a beautiful tip, by the way. Write down all the not self themes and put them in your pocket so you know when this is happening. That even now to this day, I think I'm going to steal that from you and I'm going to be like writing down, putting it in my pocket. I have many, so I'm going to have a notepad. Yeah, but I love that. Now talk to us about how this work is for you. How did you get into the line of work that you're in, and how do you include human design into that, Tresa? Because I'm fascinated to know.
My passion. Oh, this is my dream to have somebody sit here and ask me this question, because I feel like I'm tapping into something that is so untapped. And it is something that every practitioner, every coach, every hypnotherapist, every breath work, everybody should be using the human design. Sorry, do you see how like,
Bring it on. I'm here for this.
So I had deep trauma growing up, manifestor trauma, sexual trauma in my adolescence, trauma from the church, all sorts of different trauma myself. And I was in self-development for about 12 years. And I knew it logically. I knew it, but I couldn't live it. There was a wall between what I thought I knew and what I was embodying. And my sister said one day, I'm my projector sister. She said, I'm studying hypnosis. And I said out loud, that's kind of dumb. Well, that's stupid. I didn't know anything about it. All I saw was what I saw on TV. I didn't know what it was. So she's going through her training course and she says, let me use you as a guinea pig. And I'm over here like, actually, I have Abraham Hicks and like Joe Dispenza, so I know everything, but I will be open to your little thing just to help you, right? She went to the Tad James Institute. They're top notch. And she ended up helping me heal some deep wounds. I, for the first time in my life, was able to embody all of the self-development. I still think about it. I think about the person I was with my wounds. And then I think about, and I'm talking within the first 4 hypnotherapy sessions. That was it. I moved through years of trauma, and I had been in the talk therapy wheel. I had been on medications in my life. I'd smoked a lot of pot at one point. I've done all of the alcohol. I tried everything to run away from my trauma. And hypnotherapy, now it's conversational, so it's deeply empowering. This is not me implanting suggestions in you. I'm a manifestor. I'm not going to let anybody do that to me. Right.
Yeah.
But as I'm speaking back through metaphors and symbolisms, as I'm allowing my unconscious mind to open up and receive the healing that it needs at an unconscious level, it changed everything for me. And at the time I was a health coach. And so my sister said, I'll teach you some techniques and you can use them on your health coach clients. I was seeing results like I had never seen in weight loss and behavioral change. And that's when I said, I started to see a lot, all of that behavioral stuff in my health coach clients, it all came down to trauma. And I just was sitting here thinking, what am I doing helping them lose weight when I could help them heal their actual trauma? So that's when I went and took my first certification course, and then another one, and then another one. And then I just got certified with the American Board of Hypnotherapy. And here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doing it so beautifully and weaving in human design and helping people.
And that's what it is. So when I have somebody's human design chart, and at this point, I've worked with hundreds of clients. I've looked at hundreds of charts. I can look at, as a matter of fact, one day I'm going to put a course together to help other practitioners learn how to, because I can look at somebody's chart. I can know their centers, their gates, their channels, their incarnation cross, their type, their authority, and I can piece together a really obvious, not emotional picture of how the emotional wounds that they have. And a lot of times I'll have clients come to me that say, I don't know what's wrong. I just have blocks. And I look at their human design chart and I'm like, well, this is what's wrong. It's this emotion and it's this. And of course, I allow them to bring it to me in a session, but so many sessions, there's so many people out there that without human design, I would have thought, oh, you're just being a difficult client, or you don't want to heal, or no. It's this center and it's this channel. It gives me the ability to know how to talk to them, what to say to them, how their cognition is going to process the information. It's the most helpful tool. I would not be as good of a practitioner as I am if I didn't curate each session to my design chart.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I'm not a hypnotherapist, but I know I use it in my work exactly the same way. It's just like, why would you not? And I know that astrologers talk about this. It's just like, why is astrology not more in business, corporate business and stuff like that? It's just like, why is human design not in there? Like, why are we not having these conversations? We are starting to have these conversations, aren't we?
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
And people like you who are, doing this beautiful, fun content, it's just like it gets seen in a fun way. And people are like, oh my gosh, like, yeah.
Well, I gotta make a confession to you, Annie. I kind of market my page to the people who are kind of 1 foot in the spiritual world and 1 foot out of the spiritual. Because if you really knew me, I'm all in. I'm all into spirit, and my hypnotherapy is so deeply spiritual. But I remember when I was kind of like a closet spiritual person, and I really want my reels and my posts to be put in front of those people's face. Because the more that we can wake up the world, and if you're in the spiritual community, you're woken up, you're already in the waking up process. And I'm really trying to intentionally attract the people who are kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So we're going through a spiritual evolution,
Yeah, where we are.
All the warriors we could get.
And I know that anybody who listens to this is going to be on the same page as me, that follows you. Just thank you. Thank you for bringing, I don't know how long you've been going with this. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it's profoundly impactful. Wow, that's a big mouthful, isn't it? It's profoundly impactful to watch content like that, because it hits, and that's that. I just want to say thank you, because you can feel that initiation of going, have you thought about this? Boom, there it is, in a fun way. So thank you so very much for everything that you provide, because it takes a lot to do the work that you do, one, to do the work that you do, but also to provide this awareness via your channel. So
yeah. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, I appreciate that.
How can people work with you? Do you do virtual work? Can you share a little bit about, you work with reflectors, which is a big, beautiful bonus for this channel.
Yeah, I love my reflector clients. It's disproportionated for me. For all of the clients that I have, it's more than 1% of reflector clients that I have. And I, just like you, attract manifestors. When I first found human design, I said, oh, the reflectors are fascinating. And so I kind of I kind of attract reflectors. Send me a message on Instagram. I do consultations for some people that want to sit down for 30 minutes face to face and help them understand the process of hypnosis or hypnotherapy that I do. And most of what I do is virtual. I have clients all over the world. Zoom is amazing.
Oh.
My sessions are 2 hours long. I have my clients in a state of trance for about an hour and a half. And they come out of it feeling like it's 20 minutes because your brainwaves slow.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute journey. It's an inner journey. Sometimes I tell people it's kind of like taking drugs without taking drugs, because you're visualizing and you're just allowing, your unconscious mind speaks through that imagination and symbols and metaphors. And I really try to push my clients to get as much out of one session as possible. And so, just send me a message and we can either set up a full hypnotherapy session or have a consultation. When you have a root cause, there's all sorts of things that are on top of it, kind of like a dandelion sits on the same root and then multiple flowers come out. Well, a lot of people don't understand about the unconscious mind is that most of your problems all go down to the same base, the same root. So when we pull that out at an unconscious level, so many other areas of your life are affected, and it's almost like a shortcut. And because it's such accelerated healing, it really is for people that are ready to let go and step in to that future version of their self, because it can be really jarring to let go of that much crap in one session if you're not wanting and ready to let go. But so many people in the spirit space that we're in, they're truly ready to let go. Yeah. They just don't know how, because so much of it, like me, was buried at such a deep subconscious level, or ancestral trauma, or past life trauma, or in utero trauma. So, it's extremely efficient.
I can imagine it would be. And, reflectors, all the reflectors I've spoken to, and even yourself, it's just like often we don't know who we are for a very, very long time because we're too busy being everybody else. And having a way to be able to bypass all of that and go, this is actually who you are. Do you remember this one? Because that's the journey of deconditioning. It's very difficult. I've done a little bit of hypnotherapy, and sometimes I'd be going into something, this is years ago, and it'd be like, hang on a second, that's not even my memory. It was just profound because I'm carrying all this shit from all of these identities that I've created or people have created onto me. I have a fifth line. So, but it's such an interesting way just listening to you speak then, because it's like, wow, this would be such a beautiful tool for a deconditioning. I mean, everybody, but it's a reflect podcast, so I'm going to talk about the reflector. But I'm like going, wow, to be able to identify the stories that we've told ourselves, or just let them, as you were showing there, let them go, because often they're not ours. They're not ours.
And I now that you mentioned that, every reflector I've ever worked with, that's one of the common conclusions that they come. Sometimes we regress to specific memories too, so they can witness as their grown-up version of themselves how their childhood version was reflecting that had nothing to do with them in the first place. Yeah. That's a thing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. You are a blessing. Thank you for being in the world.
Thank you so much. I'm to a point in my life where I've studied enough about reflectors. I could give a rip about what anybody says about me unless you're a reflector. truly, and I'm all honesty about that. I want to know, I want to know my blind spots. I want to see it. And the amazing interactions I've had with reflectors, they don't know me, right? But they know me.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you, all reflectors out there. If we could wake up all of the reflectors, if they could truly, truly know what gifts that you are to us, to everybody around you. So, another thing that I will mention is I was kind of inspired. I felt called, because I have a platform where there are some reflectors, to kind of put together a, reflector meetup.
Yeah.
Not for even me to be part of, but that's kind of something that I'm kind of tiptoe muscling around with. But I love what you do. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Because that's, we've got to catch them all, and they'll really appreciate that. We've got a couple, but again, it's just like people need to move in different areas and different spaces. So as long as there's somewhere or a container that's being housed, because like everything, and we talk a lot about this on the podcast, it's like you need to come in, you need to retract to heal a little bit. And when you find this, whether you're a manifestor or whatever you are, retracting into that safe space, and that's generally a reflector to reflector or manifestor to manifestor. And then when you're ready to sort of like step out, you can go, okay, I can put my toe out there now, and I can, it's the world isn't so scary because you kind of can feel you again, opposed to feeling everybody else. So that's what I always imagine these containers are, regardless of what it is. Every Alcoholic Anonymous, we've all got these little containers, not we, but people have got these containers. So, and manifestors I know have their own container, lots of them around, because they need it too.
Yeah, one thing I am so humbled by about human design is the fact that I will never know what it feels like to be any other type but me. So I hear people talk about reflectors. I hear myself talk about reflectors on my page. And anybody who knows me knows I'm the first one to say, I can logically know this, but I will never know what it feels like to be a reflector. And I'm never going to pretend to, I respect it and I honor it. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've got a little bit more of a, upper hand there, because we kind of we kind of do know. What it's like, oh, that's right. It's just like,
no, that is 100% true.
I have literally tracked it. This might make you laugh because it makes me laugh. There are some days, it's always this certain days, doesn't happen every month, but sometimes I'll kick a shoe and I'm just like, oh, you can bet your ass that's my manifestor day, because I have two manifestor days per month. Sometimes it's just like, get out of my way, I got shit to do. And it's like, whoa. And I don't track anymore because I'm so used to the feeling. And when it happens, and I go, oh, must be my manifestor day, or, it must be this. Yeah. But yeah, kicking, sometimes I feel that like, yeah. And it's like, wow, I'm probably just sampling what it must feel like. So yeah. So even though we're the same, we don't understand truly, but it's just like, we kind of get a taste of it. And it's just like, yeah, this is sucky.
I'm all about appropriate amount of emotion and inappropriate amount. And an inappropriate amount is a trigger. It's suppressed emotions from the past. Manifestors' anger, our appropriate amount of anger for kicking a shoe is 10 times more than anybody else's appropriate amount. And so it's so funny for me to hear you say that, because I'm like, that's exactly what it's like. It's something so small. And like, yeah, that's it.
And manifesting, I know we're digressing here, but manifesting generators, like I watch my son and I watch other people, and it's literally, I feel for them. And I don't know about you, but there is only 4 types. And I'm like, I get that. But I like to give credit to the manifesting generator, because it's like they're trying to get up those stairs as quick as they can, but they've got to backpedal a couple of bit because they missed a step, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And they're like, ah. Yeah. And then they get frustrated, so they're going to kick the shoe out of the way because you're in their flow, and they're like, far out. I feel like they are a subspecies, they are a subspecies, just like the projector. But it's like, my heart goes out to the manifesting generator.
Yeah. My heart goes out to them. And then I also have, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I have deep manifesting generator envy. oh, if I could just have your defined sacral. Oh, right. And then of course the manifesting generator is like, if I could have your initiating capacity. Ooh, but I agree with you. What a magnificent creature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Our future overlords, as I call them. As a birth worker, I've seen that's literally like 90% of my birth clients are all MGs. And I'm like, one day I'm gonna get a reflector. One day.
Yes. What a magical day.
Thank you so very much for being here. Before we go, would you like to share any wisdom that you have with reflectors, with anybody in the human design space? Share some Tresa wisdom that we would love to hear.
Okay. Yeah. No matter who you are, and you've heard this saying before, we are all just spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? And something I see over and over in the clients that I work with and in myself is that the spirit world is so much closer than most people. We all get trapped in the Maya. We all get trapped in the mind. And when you start to live as your true authentic self, the most magnificent surprise for me is that spirit's so close. It's visceral. And we are deeply loved. And when we come together in love and we commune with other people, you're in Australia. I've never met before. I have this love in my heart, and it's a gate 25 thing too, but I have this love in my heart for you that I just cannot. And I believe that this is the world that we're turning into. And the more of us that open up to that love and put down the not self, right? The sooner we're going to move into this next phase of the spiritual evolution, because spirit's here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being here with me.